The purchasing process generally begins with the creation of a purchase order, which requires data from the inventory table and also from the vendor table. We've added a new inventory item using our GPID. So the next thing we want to do is add a new vendor using our GPID. So this video illustrates how to enter a new vendor in Dynamics GP. I'm using the Fabricam company. And to add a new vendor, I'll begin by clicking on Purchasing in the navigation pane. And then I will, in the Cards group, select Vendor. In the vendor window, before we get started, I want to point out the Help icon. You'll notice from the drop-down that you can find out more information about this window. If I click on it, it will take me to the Help and provide information on the vendor maintenance window and all of the associated fields. I could also click on Search if I so desired and search for something specific. I will close the window now, but note Help is available on all of the windows. In addition, there's a check mark next to the Show Required Fields. Show Required Fields indicates by the bolded field items that those are required for the window. If I unclick it, you can see that the font goes down to regular font. I do want to show required fields, so I'm going to leave that checked. When you create your vendor, you want to use in the vendor ID the GP ID assigned to you by your professor. In my demonstration, that will be MLW242. I'll press the Tab key, and I'm going to enter in the name. And for the name, I'm going to enter the last name, Watson, and the first name, Marcia. And then I'm just going to add incorporated. You can add incorporated, company, manufacturing, anything that you would like to add. I'll go ahead and tab through, and the information for the next couple fields will default in. And as I tab, you can see the next item is the hold. And there may be times during the course of a business that you want to place a vendor record on hold. For example, if you receive the wrong merchandise or maybe defective merchandise from a vendor, you would not want to pay that vendor until the correct merchandise is received. When a vendor record is on hold, you can't issue or apply payments. However, you can order and receive goods from the vendor while it is on hold. So as a security measure, when that vendor's on hold or removed from being on hold, you might want to password protect the use of the hold. As I tab over, you can see we have another item, status. This defaults to active. An active vendor is a vendor, that's a person or a company, that you have a long-term relationship with and for whom you want to keep detailed information. From the drop-down, you can see we have other choices. One is inactive. And an inactive vendor is a vendor that you do not do business with anymore. Typically, these are vendors whose records you can't delete because historical information is kept for them and you don't want to lose that. When a vendor is in inactive status, then you cannot save or post transactions. The other option is a temporary vendor, and that's a vendor that you have a short-term relationship with and are just keeping minimal information for. As we continue with the setup of the vendor, our next field is the class ID. In this illustration, we want to assign the U.S. inventory class to this vendor, so I'll use the lookup button, which will take me to all the vendor classes. And you can see that USA-US-1 is US vendors for inventory. And that's the class I want for this particular vendor. So I will select that. The next field is the address ID. And a vendor can have many addresses, such as a corporate office, manufacturing plant. We're going to identify just one address, and that will be primary. Go ahead and enter your name as the contact, and then go ahead and make up information for the address. Now there's other information here, but we're not going to fill out anymore. This is sufficient for our exercise. But before we close out, we want to explore a bit. Let us take a look at the options. At the tab at the top. This shows some of the information that we need for this vendor's already been established based on being assigned to this particular class. For example, the payment terms are net 30. We're just going to go ahead and accept the default, and we will say OK. Next, let's look at the Accounts tab. When we buy on account, the credit will go to accounts payable, and that's this general ledger account 2100. And as expected, the purchases that we make, retail parts, inventory, a 1300, is the account that will receive the debit. These accounts appear to be appropriate to us, so we will go ahead and we will click OK. Go back to the vendor window, and we are going to save. At this point, if we wanted to enter more vendors, we would, but this is all that we're going to do, and so this video concludes, and I will close the vendor maintenance window.